They are the Ravens are 0-2 for the first time since 2015. Lamar Jackson said that they just need to find their mojo, the Ravens. His coach, John Harbaugh, said to keep in mind that the NFL season is, in fact, a marathon and not a sprint.
We want to play better. We want to play winning football. We didn't do the things we need to do to win. So we've got to keep pounding the rock, and the rock is going to crack, but that's our job, to keep pounding, not get discouraged.
This doesn't call for a change in the system. It doesn't call for a change in the player as much as it does take what we've learned Sunday. You can look at it the week before, and we didn't have some of those same issues, but this can happen to you.
All right, let's just say in August you were being a little self-indulgent and you were looking at the Week 3 schedule, Peter, and maybe this game stood out to you. Maybe it was Baltimore at Dallas because you could not wait to see the reigning MVP get on the field in Dallas. You could not wait to see all the money that the Cowboys had spent for the Cowboys to start off hot. It's not really the case for either of these teams. We're looking at this game very differently than we would have in mid-August. Peter, when you inspect this Sunday afternoon matchup between Baltimore and Dallas, where does your eye train? Because, frankly, we're all looking for some answers on both sides.
Jamie, you couldn't have said it better. Look, the stakes feel high in this game for a Week 3 Sunday afternoon game. It feels like there's an urgency because of how the Week 2s finished for both these teams. I look at Baltimore, and I look at what's becoming not necessarily a weird circumstance, but a trend, and it's their inability to put teams away late. This has cost them over the last few years. Guys, there's no team that is worse in football in fourth quarters when they have a 10-point lead than the Baltimore Ravens. They, for whatever reason, have not been able to close the deal. And it happened again, like a nightmare, to a Raiders team that came limping into this one. Guys, the Ravens have an NFL high 10 losses when up by 7 or more points in the fourth quarter since 2021. They have a 70% win percentage when they're up 7 or more points in the fourth quarter. That should be 100.
Yeah, 7.
When you're up 7 points in the fourth quarter, especially at home, you should be putting teams away. Now they're on the road with a big goose egg as a 0 in their wins column, and I'm looking at it and I'm like, is no win safe? Is no lead safe? They're going to Dallas where they're coming off their own issues, and we'll talk about them in this segment that, the Cowboys, whatever that was on Sunday, home opener to the Saints, giving up 6 touchdowns on 6 possessions to New Orleans. Like, Mike Zimmer, I hope you're in the lab right now. Like, I don't know what was that because Lamar's coming, but even if they're up 10, even if they're up 14, like, it's really difficult as a fan base, as a head coach, as a team to look at yourselves in the mirror and say, okay, we're doing well, because you always feel like the Grim Reaper's coming if you give up these leads. I remember last year that Cleveland game before Deshaun Watson got hurt came all the way back against them. They lost to the Dolphins after going into overtime. They had this nail biter where it came all the way back. They have had some horrendous fourth quarters and overtime experiences over the last few years. And to me, it's like we've got a new defensive coordinator. We've got new offensive linemen. We've got a new offensive line coach. It's the same problems. You got to fix it. So if I'm a Ravens fan, I'm feeling it this morning. You look at the head coach, you say, Harbs, like, can we fix that? Because we should be one of those teams that is just disciplined and can put teams away. And of all 32, they've been the worst at doing so in the fourth quarter.
Wow. Yeah, I'm looking at the same thing, too, with the Baltimore Ravens. I'm looking at them. They're starting off 0-2. In this conference or in this division, and you look at how competitive this division is. It's crazy to look at the Steelers, which I don't think a lot of people thought with the quarterback question that they were going to start off 2-0 in their division. Then you look at the Cleveland Browns; they're 1-1. And then Baltimore Ravens, to me, that's just, I'm wearing purple because I'm like,
support.
I'm trying to support them.
Passive support.
Y'all got to get this win is what I'm trying to say. I mean, to have Derrick Henry in your backfield, to have a stud quarterback like Lamar Jackson, and not to be able to beat the Raiders, not to be able to win your first game. I think this game is so important for them to be able to, especially against a very good Dallas Cowboys team. I think it's going to be important for them to win this game.
Just say, Akbar, like you're wearing the purple for the Vikings. The Vikings are 2-0. That's fine. That's a good look. That's an easy look. We're skull clapping. We're beating people up. The Ravens do have that problem, though. I like when Peter mentions the Grim Reaper and you actually like hold a scythe.
Yeah.
That
was it.
And that's what happens at the end. The scythe,
Norm
right?
Macdonald in The Family Guy.
Yeah.
Just like he's got it. Like,
and Adam Carolla does it sometimes too. They change who's the Grim Reaper. I have a positive take. No Grim Reaper, no anything. I'm looking over this game and this matchup and how these last 2 weeks have gone. I think this is going to be a clubhouse leader for Game of the Year. I think this has unbelievable potential. I'm almost talking about like Mahomes v. Goff in the Coliseum type potential.
Wow.
Here's why. All right. So the Cowboys, they can't stop the run. Like they just can't do it or won't do it, whatever the case. The Ravens lead the NFL in rushing. All right, Henry, Lamar, you know the deal. I think they're going to run like crazy. But meanwhile, that's not enough. That's only half-baked. The Ravens are giving up the most passing yards in the entire NFL. I think Dak is going to chuck. Vinny Testaverde once threw 69 passes in a game. Bledsoe threw 70, but it was an overtime game. That's the single game record for 69 passes. I think Dak may throw 69 passes to CeeDee Lamb. Like, this game is going to be all back and forth. And not to mention, you've got Justin Tucker, you've got Brandon Aubrey, you've got two of these now celebrity kickers that can make him from any distance, allegedly, if you're Tucker. I think it is massive, like 41-38 type potential. And don't sleep if the Ravens are up 10, 13, 14, 17 in the last quarter. And obviously, like in terms of, listen, obviously the Cowboys have a win, so they're not as much dire straits as going 0-3. But in terms of like who needs to win this just for the sake of the context of the month of September, Dallas's next game is against the Giants, okay? The Giants are looking pretty supple right now. Baltimore next has to play Buffalo, who may be the best team in the NFL right now. Baltimore, if you're 0-3 and then you're like, oh, then we have to take on Josh Allen and we couldn't stop the Cowboys, what are we talking about here? This is like, these are our Ravens. This is Lamar. This is John Harbaugh. We know this brand. We're supposed to see them in the playoffs. You lose this weekend, and it's like, I don't know if the Ravens are eliminated, but we put them aside. We don't talk about 0-3 teams. I don't care what logo, what quarterback, how many MVPs you got. It's not a loser leaves town, but it's close. And I think this game is like 41-38 and a Brandon Aubrey 80-yard walk-off field goal.
80.
This is the one. An 80-yarder. This is the one I want. I'm telling you.
Well, there are a lot of headlines in this matchup when you look at the stars. And the fact that Kyle just had kickers in his take really tells you where we're going with this team. The fact that Justin Tucker is 0 for 2 on 50-plus yarders this season, like all of a sudden is Brandon Aubrey coming for you and the greatest kicker that's playing right now? That one is the topic. The fact that in terms of panic meter conversation. People were panicked that Tom Brady wasn't going to be good at his job after the first week. Seemed to have settled in just fine. Everyone kind of dropped those hot takes. We are panicking more about the Ravens or the Cowboys, if you're a Ravens fan, if you're a Cowboys fan, than we ever have been about Tom Brady, who will be on this call for the third week in a row for the Cowboys. How we landed here with these two teams is actually remarkable. But, Peter, I just want to circle back real quick to what you were saying about Zach Orr and the fact that this new school defensive coordinator for the Baltimore Ravens compared to the old school in Mike Zimmer. I don't know what the preference is. Would you rather be with somebody with a Zimmer who has this established career and you bring him in and he's supposed to keep going what Dan Quinn had, or is Zach Orr just kind of flailing in the wind right now? These are both kind of very obvious defensive issues these two teams are facing.
Jamie, spot on. You've got 32-year-old versus Zimmer, who, of course, is nearing 70. And you've got this deal where neither one of them stopped anything last week. The Raiders had more, passing yards through the air with Bowers and Devontae Adams than any team. They were just going right up and down. But if you're Zim and you just gave up 6 touchdowns on 6 straight possessions at home, and you watched Derek Carr look like 1980s Joe Montana or 2020s Patrick Mahomes, you better find a way to stop Lamar, because he's not suddenly going to just stay in the pocket. He might run all over you also.
It's always interesting to check in on Vegas, too, what they think about games like this. It's only the second time for Mike McCarthy and Dak Prescott to be home underdogs in a matchup, and it happened like years ago. I know. So that's what that town east of us thinks, still getting the fact that I'm in Los Angeles. Let's